Jacksonville at Cleveland. I don't think we're going to see Trevor Lawrence this week. If we do see Trevor Lawrence, I've got serious concerns about his from a production standpoint. Do you think that there's some hope in this matchup?
So I just checked the over-under to see if there'd been any kind of line movement since pictures of Trevor Lawrence practicing today came out. And it's down at 30.5 now, so it's 0.5 less. I don't know if it was lower than that before those reports came out. But yeah, like you, I don't think it really makes sense to put him out there in a game where he could get mauled by Cleveland. Like, if you're unable to move as freely as you like to, and you've got players like Myles Garrett coming at you, that feels like a really bad recipe to me. So yeah, I think we're going to see CJ Beathard, which he did okay on Monday night, 9 for 10, 63 yards, 0 touchdowns. Got banged up himself. The last time he really started a game was like way back in 2020 under Kyle Shanahan, and it feels kind of unfair to try and take any answers from that because we've seen how QB friendly the Shanahan system can be. So, yeah, I think it's kind of difficult to project too much. Travis Etienne hit his first game as an RB1 since week 8, but now he's going against the Cleveland run defense, which ranks 5th best in DVOA. Parker Washington came in, took all the slot work straight away after Kirk went down on the first play of the game or first catch of the game for Kirk. And he's an interesting player. I feel like he's probably going to pick up a reasonable amount of ownership on DraftKings this week because he'll be incredibly cheap. And if obviously Christian Kirk isn't going to play, Evan Ingram finally got his first touchdown after 73 catches, which is encouraging. But, you know, if Beathard's out there, what are you really hoping for from any of these players? The main hope, I guess, would be that Joe Flacco is playing for the Browns again, which seems to be what things are pointing towards. And Joe Flacco had the Browns playing faster and more pass heavy than they've been all year. Amari Cooper hasn't practiced so far this week, so maybe we get another of these games where he's just peppering David Njoku, peppering Elijah Moore. And Elijah Moore was being used far more downfield than we've seen at any point with him being at the Browns. It seems like the connection with him and Joe Flacco really is true, and there is something to it. The last time David Njoku saw fewer than 6 targets in a game was week 6 against the Niners. The Jags defense are not the Niners. They allow 30 most fantasy points to tight ends. So I think you can start Elijah Moore, you can start David Njoku. Jerome Ford, it's been 5 straight games with touches decreasing, which feels a little bit worrying. But yeah, I mean, this Jags defense, their weakness really is the passing game. They've allowed the 8th most fantasy points to wide receivers and given up since week 10. Allowed Jamar Chase 31 points, Nico Collins 23 points, Tank Dell 17 points, Deebo Samuel 15, DeAndre Hopkins 15, Brandon Ayuk 14. Like, they just are not stopping the pass well enough at the minute.
Yeah, I've got a lot of points here, so I'm going to fly through them. Elijah Moore, really low A dot in line with the rest of the season until that Amari Cooper injury. As soon as that Cooper injury happened, he got moved and he started getting targeted downfield. So I think if Cooper's out, I think that's really, really good news for Elijah Moore. If Cooper's back, I do wonder if he could have a high target but low value target game potentially. Travis Etienne, we've talked for the last 3 weeks about how he's seen that opportunity share decrease. He's been below 70% since the bye week. Last week, yes, he had a good game. Yes, he got in the end zone, but he only had a 62.5% opportunity share. The concern is still there for me. I think if you can get an opportunity to maybe sell off last week and go and target another player for the stretch or in a dynasty league, now might be the opportunity to do it because I am still concerned that this offense is never going to use him in a 70-80% role. And then Calvin Ridley, look, we saw him get those condensed sets. We saw him get moved around more. But with Christian Kirk gone, I do wonder if we're going to start seeing him move into the slot maybe. Maybe he takes some of that role over, which could be really interesting. And then finally, Parker Washington, $3,000 on DraftKings. Is he a free slot, Tom? Do you think he's a basically plug and play?
Not really, no. I mean, I think if it was anyone else apart from the Browns, it would be easier. You look at their defense, and they are just truly elite against the pass in pretty much all facets. They allow, the second fewest fantasy points to wide receivers. They allow a league low 54% catch rate to opposing wide receivers. They are slightly better against wide receivers out wide, where they allow the sixth fewest fantasy points. To slot receivers, they allow the seventh fewest fantasy points. So if it was a different matchup, yeah, but we kind of need him to hit 10 points to really pay off. And I'm just not sure that we need to go there. But maybe we'll see how the slate develops over the weekend.
Okay. And Ray's in the chat saying Browning or Ridder this week. For me, that's Browning. I quite like Browning as a kind of high-end QB2. Ridder, I just can't get on board with.
Yeah, it's Browning for me as well, but mainly because of the matchup. I think, the Colts, they allow a reasonable amount of fantasy production.